HTC is a world-renowned Taiwanese electronics manufacturer, specialising in smartphones from day one with the HTC Dream. Thought of as the first true Android smartphone, HTC has continued to break the molds and perpetually transform and revolutionise what the ideal smartphone would look like throughout the years. In 2016, they shook up the virtual reality space, releasing a promising competitor to the hugely popular Oculus Rift, the HTC Vive. HTC is a legend in the smartphone space. But as the years go on, it's been seen that the electronic giant has just lost its touch, and with an increasing loss in sales and indeed revenue from year to year, it's not unreasonable to say that HTC is in trouble. Hey guys, my name is Ryan Thomas from Failtech, and today we're going to be looking at the fall of HTC. In the early noughties and earlier in the decade, HTC had been creating some good but unremarkable smartphones, including the Wildfire, Desire, Legend Hero, and plenty of others. But the company would really find its footing when it came out with the One, codenamed the One M7. This phone made headlines for its brand new take on build quality, featuring a fully aluminium construction in a mainstream Android smartphone with a design to die for. It was curvy and smooth and came in a lush array of colours. It sported HTC's and Beats collaboration, Boom Sound, a stereo speaker setup up front that changed the way we listen to music and watch videos on our smartphones. Its 1080p display at the time was one of the best on the market, and it made its competitors, namely the Galaxy S4 and LG G2, look and feel like toys in the hand. It sold incredibly well for an HTC device, even if still not competing with Samsung's and Apple's sales records. Phone reviewers across the internet marvelled in its game-changing approach to Android smartphones, and it would only be a year before HTC dropped an amazingly better successor, the HTC One M8. The sleeker, sexier and more desirable younger sibling to the M7, the 2014 release was certainly more dramatic here in the UK, and, to no one's surprise, more tech YouTubers were stunned at its build quality, display, speakers, and now a fancy new camera with depth sensing. Reminds you of anything? HTC's One M8 was arguably the peak of what the company had produced over the years. In 2014, if you wanted to buy a high-end new smartphone, HTC was on your list. Sure, the M8 was iterative, but made improvements in areas that people complained about. HTC was listening. Unfortunately, the next release that the Taiwanese powerhouse would make, the One M9, wouldn't take off like its previous efforts. The M9 drops the gimmicky camera for a much more sensible one, but this was also the Snapdragon 810 era, meaning a few things. One, the 810 was prone to overheating, and so oftentimes there would be crashes and thermal throttling and lags and drops in battery performance, but also because this was the generation that Samsung would step up their build quality game and would supersede HTC to become the new best made device in the eyes of the consumer. The M9 would omit the fingerprint scanner, leave the software unfinished, and in a world of S6 Edges, iPhone 6s and even Nexus 6Ps, sales would be down and things weren't looking good for HTC. 2016 would mark the year that the HTC Vive was released. Being marketed at gamers across the globe, it seemed to sell pretty well, certainly making Oculus wince. They released the HTC 10 to a lot of neutral reviews since the thing was just very boring. However, its smartphone division would be falling substantially, and it would be clear that the dream was over for HTC. 2017 rolled around and the company would no longer be making a profit. HTC were losing money and its downward spiral would continue to plummet HTC's phone division closer to failure, releasing a couple of phones with very limiting success. In January of 2018, when everything seemed to be going south, Google spent $1.1 billion acquiring most of HTC's smartphone division, making a push to make their Pixel devices the best in the world. HTC has been operating on a loss for some time now, and unfortunately it doesn't look like we're going to see anything big from them for a long while. They've continued to release their HTC Vive Pro and several smartphones, but from now on they're just going to live in the shadow of what once was one of the leaders in smartphone design.